Meanwhile, a sharp war of words is brewing between US President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron, playing out on the global stage at the World Economic Forum in Davos. French President Emmanuel Macron warned world leaders against bowing to what he called intimidation tactics. After his Davos address, Macron said that leaders must remain calm, stand by their principles, and refuse to submit to the law of the strongest. Listen in.
We do believe that we need more growth, we need more stability in this world. But we do prefer respect to bullies, we do prefer science to plotism, and we do prefer rule of law to brutality. You're welcome in Europe, and you are more than welcome to France. In this context, I want to exclude two approaches. The first approach would be to passively accept the law of the strongest, leading to vassalization and bloc politics. I think accepting a sort of new colonial approach doesn't make sense. And all the head of state and government and business leaders, which would be too complacent with such an approach, will take a huge responsibility. The second will be to adopt a purely moral posture, limiting ourselves to commentary. That path would condemn us to marginalization and powerlessness. Faced with the brutalization of the world, France and Europe must defend an effective multilateralism because it serves our interests and those of all who refuse to submit to the rule of force. Because the diagnosis is well known, European competitiveness still lags behind that of the US, and in the current global order, facing precisely the Chinese approach, we have to react. So first, protection. Protection doesn't mean protectionism. But today's Europeans are too naive. This is the unique market open to everybody without checking level playing field. Nobody can access the Chinese market as people are accessing the European market for sure. But even if you take the US and a lot of other countries, the level of protection does exist for investment and trade. And the Europeans are the only one not to protect their own companies and their own markets when the other countries doesn't respect level playing field. So the objective of this G7 will be to build this framework of cooperation in order to fix the roots of these imbalances. This is why we have to be much more realistic if we want to protect our chemical industry, our industry, from the automotive sectors to a lot of others, because they are being literally killed by the lack of respect of a normal framework and level playing field. Europe has very strong tools now, and we have to use them when we are not respected and when the rules of the game are not respected, by the way. The anti-coercion mechanism is a powerful instrument, and we should not hesitate to deploy it in today's tough environment. We must also advance. We must act on imports as well regarding this protection issue. And in the context of escalating trade tensions, China is welcome. But what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe in some key sectors to contribute to our growth, to transfer some technologies, and not just to export towards Europe some devices or products which sometimes don't have the same standards or are much more subsidized as the one being produced in Europe. It's not being protectionist, it's just restoring this level playing field and protecting our industry.
Macron then went on to say that European Union should not bend to coercion. He added that it was staggering that the bloc was even being forced to consider deploying its anti-coercion instruments against the United States. Macron also said that France preferred respect over bullies and the rule of law over brutality. Without naming any country, he said that France and Europe must defend effective multilateralism against a growing global shift towards the raw power politics. The French president has taken a tougher line than the most European leaders in response to Trump's threat over Greenland, pushing the EU to activate its strongest trade tools and sending French troops to Greenland. Macron said that the move was not meant to threaten anyone, but to support Denmark. This comes as US President Donald Trump issued a direct warning. Trump earlier said that he could impose a 200% tariff on French wines and champagnes to pressure President Macron into joining his proposed Gaza Board of Peace initiative.
US President Donald Trump threatened to hit French wines and champagnes with 200% tariffs. It's an apparent effort to get French President Emmanuel Macron to join his Board of Peace initiative. Trump's initiative would start by addressing Gaza and then expand to deal with other conflicts. But it raises questions about the role of the United Nations, and a source close to Macron said the French president intended to turn down the invitation to join.
Oh, did he say that? Well, nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right. What I'll do is if they feel like Costa, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join.
Macron is due in Davos for the day on Tuesday before a scheduled return to Paris in the evening. Elysée aides have said there are no plans to extend his stay to Wednesday, when Trump arrives in the Swiss mountain resort town. In another shot at the French leader, Trump published a private message from Macron. The French leader's message said he didn't understand Trump's actions over Greenland. Wines and spirits exported to the US from the European Union currently face a 15% tariff. That's a rate the French have been lobbying hard to reduce to zero. The US is the largest market for French wine and spirits, with shipments to the country at $4.4 billion in 2024.